Even though 2019's Jesus is King was panned as Kanye's weakest album, there's always this mass anticipation for whatever he does next. However, recently with Kanye, it's always a leap of faith to see if you're getting an album or not. With TurboGrafx and Yandhi never seeing official releases, there was doubt about the legitimacy of Donda for a bit. That is until Kanye lived in Mercedes-Benz Stadium for 2 weeks, finishing it up, hosted almost weekly listening parties that became these visual spectacles to behold. Once again, not releasing the album on time, and then it being released on a Sunday morning, which I guess makes sense given how very God and Christ-centric the album is. It clocks in at 27 tracks, nearly is 2 hours long, very biblical and church-oriented production, and a wholly ensemble of features that is just insane to look at on paper. And now that it's out, I think it is all over the place. It begins with the 50-second intro Donda chant, which is exactly what it sounds like, 50 seconds of chanting Donda. Then it leads into Jail, which is awesome. It is very reminiscent of My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy with the hyper-abrasive electro riffs, the shouty group vocals, and the chorus here is bound to get you singing along with it. Guess who's going to jail tonight? Jay-Z gives a great contribution as well. It's nice to see these two back on a track together, and he is one of many features who really get to shine on this album. The song Hurricane features The Weeknd, who does his thing on the chorus, and Lil Baby gives a pretty good verse too. Baby Keem fits perfectly on the booming Praise God, which also has Travis Scott on it, although he doesn't really do much. He's kind of just in the background and forgotten. Jonah has this painfully endearing hook sung by Vori that is just pleading for help. It is saddening yet so addicting to listen to. 24, which I assume is a track dedicated to the late Kobe Bryant, has Kanye and Sunday Service Choir deliver some powerful affirming gestures about life after death, sounding like a commemorative church service fit with organs and choirs. Sunday Service Choir are also utilized on the title track, which is oddly enough an interlude in the middle of the album. This is a 2-minute track of Donda West speaking proudly of life and Kanye. The vocal snippet is scored very well here with the gospel implementation near the end of the track, which invokes this feeling that the words being said here are eternally remembered. Moon with Kid Cudi and Don Toliver is a spacious, soulful interlude with a lot of gentle vocal inflections by both parties. It's very pleasant to listen to. Jesus Lord with J Electronica is a 9-minute monster where Kanye is telling this tale of how the death of a young boy drove his family members to drugs and violence. The mother becomes an addict to escape the dread of losing her son, and his brother wants revenge, hunting his killer down and executing him after his final meal. Jay then delivers a highly conscious philosophical verse. I am not gonna lie, most everything Jay says here goes way over my head as I am just an uneducated swine, but he was able to get the point of strife across that ties to the song's core concept of needing Jesus to save us from ourselves and from each other. New Again with Chris Brown is overbearingly evangelical for sure, talking about wanting to change and hoping to be changed, but in this instance it's more of an ideal to strive for rather than a gesture made in self-indulgence, which I will address very soon. Plus I really like the electronic instrumental here. I think Pure Souls with Roddy Ricch and Shen Sia, I hope I'm pronouncing that name right, falls in the same vein where even though the topic is incredibly heavy-handed, the gratefulness on display here from coming up in a rough area as a child to achieving the collective dream of success is too genuine to put aside here, especially with Shensia's contribution on the back end. Again, sorry if I mispronounced that. There are 2 songs here where Kanye flies solo, like on Believe What I Say, which has a really dope synth-funk groove that I dig, and the beautifully chilling Come to Life, which has Kanye pouring his heart out about his will to live, his readiness to go and see his loved ones again, how regretful he is of a past relationship going sour, and how he honors and remembers lost loved ones every time he uses a pen. The sparkling piano lines are the cherry on top for the most cathartic moment on the album. So I think there's a decent serving of good material scattered throughout the track listing, but for what Kanye is trying to do with this album, it ends up being incredibly bloated, which does not justify its long runtime, because as the album goes on, the songwriting ideas grow thinner and thinner as it progresses. It takes a lot of odd topical detours that detract from the album experience as a whole, and to be blunt, a lot of the songs here are forgettable. God Breathe is so indulgent and self-centered that it's actually annoying to listen to. I know indulgence and self-centeredness is not something new to Kanye, it's kind of what he's most famous for, but it's not entertaining here whatsoever, especially with how repetitious it gets, man, Jesus. Off the Grid is no better in that regard either. The rhyme scheme here gets super mind-numbing to listen to, and it goes on for the entire 5 minutes. Grid, kid, rib. Okay, and JUNYA have really scant beats that are so generically contemporary it hurts. These are so out of place on the album. Speaking of out of place, however, the attempted slight or acknowledgement of futurism on Remote Control with Young Thug sounds like Kanye put this song on the wrong album. Like he accidentally dragged and dropped this track into Donda instead of TurboGrafx. Also, shoutouts to Donkey for leaking Donda, because this...
I am the glob glow gab galab, the schwabble double wobble gabble flibber blabber blab,
is actually sampled at the end of the track. I don't understand. This album, in theory, is supposed to commemorate your mother and materialize how much she and your faith means to you. Why is this here? Then there are just some songs that don't really warrant much to say about them. Heaven and Hell is really forgettable. Keep My Spirit, I think, is a waste of Griselda. Tell the Vision is actually an alternate version of a Pop Smoke song. Maybe it's here for commemoration, but I just don't think it sounds good in the context of the album. Lord, I Need You, really nothing to say about that. And No Child Left Behind, which was the big teaser for the album on a commercial not too long ago, just doesn't have any substance to it, especially given how late it is in the album's runtime. Nothing about it really catches my interest because I feel like I've heard this sound and idea like many times before. And I don't know what was running through Kanye's head when he decided to add these two-parters to the songs Jail, Okay Okay, JUNYA, and Jesus Lord. These are just facsimiles of their respective first parts down to their Spotify metadata, I'd guarantee you. Except Kanye is either replacing verses or adding verses to them. Jail, for example, removes Jay-Z entirely and adds in a Long DaBaby verse, which is not bad, and Marilyn Manson is also featured here, except he doesn't really do anything. He's just a backup vocalist for the hook. I already dislike the bass Okay Okay in JUNYA, so adding Ty Dolla $ign and removing Lil Yachty isn't really going to help anything. And adding the LOX, or the LOX, whichever one they go by, consisting of Jadakiss, Styles P, and Chic Louch, is cool, but they're kind of there more as window dressing. They don't really add anything extra to the song, in my opinion. Nothing fundamentally changes about these two-parters outside of the verses, and you would think that these changes would reflect to a greater degree on the songs in regards to presenting new perspectives or new styles or new ideas to ponder, but they don't. The instrumentals and the context are the exact same, leading to these part twoers to feel like they belong on a B-sides album as remixes. They also make up over 20 minutes of the album's runtime, which just elongates this experience, which just leads me to feel like Kanye intentionally made this decision to get more money from streams. Overall, there are a good handful of moments that far outshine anything on Jesus is King. The songs here feel more complete, have more of a reward for listening to them, and can be moving and potent and emotional. But admittedly, comparing this album to Jesus is King is such a low bar. So when I look at this album on the metrics of what it is or what it's trying to be, it falls short in so many categories. It is way too long, first and foremost, which has a rippling effect that proves to be a detriment to what could have been a consistent and comprehensive album. Instead, we get an album that's incredibly inconsistent songwriting wise and structurally. It is loaded to the brim with filler and unnecessary detours, and it is fatiguing to listen to, having to slog through these underdeveloped, underwhelming moments more often than not, and hearing the same core themes regurgitated in less interesting ways than the last iteration over and over and over again made finishing this album a chore. But I feel like I've gone on a little long here. It's okay. It's not as worse, but I definitely will not remember this album very fondly in the future. Those are my thoughts. What are yours? Let me know down below, and I will see you on the next video. I'd give it a...